All right, we have another War of Rights map briefing. This one is going to be Hooker's Push. I am one of those disgusting human beings that actually really likes Hooker's Push. I think that a lot of it is great. I will go along with what I think is the consensus. The consensus is correct. The Union spawn on this is absolutely terrible. It should be the back of Miller's Cornfield, but it is what it is. This is a huge map. I don't know if it's the biggest, but man, it feels big. CSA spawn, by the way, is a hike as well from the point of contention, but the Union have it rough on this map. It's an interesting map. It's an arty heavy map, so naturally I'm interested. It's a fairly open map, which means you got to look for the nuances in terrain. The Union get to bring the sharpshooters, so they have the Sharps rifles on this one, so that's it's kind of its own X factor as well. There's a lot of corn. Let's take a look at Hooker's Push. So we are actually starting. The Union spawn is actually, I believe, further back. It's been a while since I had to spawn main as the Union on Hooker's Push. I'm pretty sure that's just a non-functioning battery. The two functioning Union batteries, I would say that overall the arty advantage is to the CSA, although both sides have numbers. The Union arty. All right, so we got 4 guns here. I would say that's probably the less used battery from my time of doing Union arty on this. This is the 6-gun battery. The point of contention, it's a ways over there, and yeah, it looks a little bit easier to see than it can be if you're actually down around, man-size height. You're skimming the corn. You really got to listen to your officer. I mean, you should anyways on this map, but this is a hard one to do as Union arty unless you have a forward observer who is somehow communicating to you, either back via chat, you have a good officer with binos, or you've pre-ranged all of these, and so you know what the elevation is from what gun and the fuse time and all that other stuff to the various points that the CSA will hold. Bombing the point is relatively straightforward, as well as that hill that the CSA kind of have, or that rise that the CSA have going into the point. But anyways, the Union has a considerable amount of arty. Here is the godforsaken Miller's Cornfield, the worst map in War of Rights, I'm happy to announce. Yeah, so that's not it's a major part of the Union, particularly if they don't keep their flag. It's a major part of the Union experience on Hooker's Push, which is why I'll make my public service announcement. Always keep your flags up. Always have your flags, especially if you're the attackers, and especially if you're the attackers on this map. But boy, oh boy, the defenders need their flags as well. If you want to see why, so the point of contention as we're flying over, yes, thank you. It's in the middle of an open field. Actually, though, I believe there's the rocks I'm looking for. I'm looking for the rocks on the rise. Why have I gotten all turned around here? Here, yeah, this is, I think, actually not far from these. I don't know if these rocks still cap or just outside of these rocks still cap. As always in these videos, if you want to find out if you're on cap, hit T. Does it say capturing? Does it say defending? Then you're on cap. If it doesn't, you're not. The CSA spawn. Yeah, this is Hagerstown Turnpike. That's the Dunker Church. The CSA spawn is down there. Right, that's main spawn for them. It's not the beginning of the round spawn, but that's the spawn they have to come from later. So if you die, and as the defenders you don't have a flag, you got to make your way up here. All right, the CSA have 3 batteries. I think their batteries have better and more relevant positions. So there's this tiny 3-gun battery here. I always get Jordan and Pogue confused. I think that this is Pogue. This is the 3-gun battery that's nearest the point of contention from the Hagerstown Turnpike map. There is Brockenbrough, which is a 6-gun battery, both here and on Hagerstown. I really, really, really like Brockenbrough as CSA arty on this map. And then, so if the point of contention is your orientation, right, we're moving around at CSA backside. I think that it's the 2-gun battery is Jordan. It's not a great starting position, and it is only 2 guns. It frequently entails, if you want to be relevant, rolling those guns up to the point. I actually timed it because, I was into this game. The 3-gun battery that is, I think, Pogue over there, it's actually, I think, slightly quicker or about the same distance to get a gun right around here as it is from Jordan. If you want to do it. But it's a long haul. The only reason why you would take it from Jordan is because there aren't a lot of other great places to take it except forward. And somewhere either up on this rise, you'll see this rise here for the CSA. That's looking into the cornfield. And the Union can't spend any time in the woods. Those are, I believe, those are the East Woods. Getting my maps confused, but anyways, no. Well, anyways, that's not what this video is about. I'll try to figure out my east from my west later on. I could hit T and just look at the compass, but let's focus on this. Anyways, the CSA will frequently move a gun here. I think it's probably not a great idea if the Union kind of knows where to shoot, because it's easy to find relative to the point of contention, and it's also from a number of just the rank and file arty spots. You can see the smoke going up and you can get an idea of where you need to shoot. And for Union artillerists who have ranged it in, they're going to be able to hit it very easily. So you might want to juke them a little bit. You can actually sneak. All right, this isn't going to be a tutorial on CSA arty on Hooker's Push, but you actually can go to the right side of this hill. And frequently the Union, we're going to talk about Union attack strats next, but they'll frequently try to push this way for good reasons, as you will see. And so they may not expect to see two guns over it. Maybe they do. All right, let's turn to how the Union approach this map. Because it's a long hike, because time works against the attacker, tickets work against the defender, you want to keep your flags up. There's a left push, a right push, and a center push, as with almost every map in War of Rights. Here, the center push, it doesn't have to be a terribly deep push out of the corn to be relevant. But I'll go with what I think is probably going to be the more fruitful push for the Union long term. It's the left side push. Why? Because it's hard for the CSA arty to hit this without knowing exactly where you are, and if it's pub play, without having all the ranges worked out. So the corn provides concealment, the fence provides a little bit of cover. There's actually a very nuanced defilade, which I think you're just seeing it now, that is here. That can cover you coming out. All right, this set of rocks will frequently be garrisoned initially by the CSA. So there's those rocks, there's that shrub. It's an isolated position. You understand why the CSA takes it, because the Union wants to come over here to avoid CSA arty. If you don't know why, I'll remind you as to why, but it's hard for the CSA arty to hit, so they can avoid that. And then if they rush these rocks and take them, it can be difficult for the CSA to dislodge them. Until the CSA can get arty that can hit these rocks, the CSA is going to have to pay a massive ticket toll in order to dislodge the Union. If the Union come over here in big enough numbers, what they may well do is put some folks here, leave some other folks back in the corn to shoot those who might come in and charge this position. In case they can't get cover for everybody in these rocks, at least they'll have some concealment and cover standing back in the corn, and the Union will be consolidated. This left side push, it can hug this fence pretty closely. And again, I never completely trust the timer, but I have done this as the Union. I can get close to this fence for a little bit, but the Union can get pretty darn close to this fence. They can push really far behind the point, right? The point's over there. They can push back. I believe they can get to this fence. I believe they can get to it, or they start to time out. I don't remember, but it's near the extreme of where the Union can push. But they can push very far behind the point on this map. So you need to be cognizant of that as the CSA, but also cognizant of that as the Union. There is, so this was our first rock hop here out of the corn as the Union. There's also, if the CSA is too far back, there is a bit of a defilade, and you know it because of those two bushes right there. Now, if the CSA is up on the open point, it is what it is. But if the Union gets in here, gets low, maybe takes a knee and gets some spread position, they will be very hard to hit. And you do that as the Union until you get a critical mass that can push on, right? If you've had to pay a ticket toll to get from the rocks to here, you want to build up your strength before you push. You can do it in that defilade. And the CSA counter to that is to push out into that fence, shoot them in the side, because the defilade does not protect them against that. And if you force the Union to push out too far, they get strung out, and then you concentrate against them while they're dispersed, and you wipe them. As a Union, if you're bringing a flag out here, you do not want to lose it. Get it back to those rocks, get it back to the corn. By the way, the CSA can push a very limited ways into the Miller's cornfield on this map. It's not deep, it's not like Miller's cornfield itself, but it is something the Union needs to be cognizant of when you're thinking about flag security. All right, back here, there's a set of rocks we saw earlier when we were looking at Battery Jordan and the two guns there. Frequently in the CSA, if they're worried that the Union is already pushed around, they'll garrison these. It provides some concealment, provides some cover. and it's getting towards the extreme of what the Union can do in terms of wrapping around their right on this map. So that is the Union left side push. Take a look at the right side push. This also uses the cornfield for concealment, although the flag should be visible. But the Union come through the corn. Now, the line is a bit odd, but you got to kind of look at that lone tree there near the Hagerstown Turnpike cap. They'll be out. Yeah, they'll be out if they're too far over, but eventually the Union can hug that line, come up this side. They can come through this tree. They can run over, I think it's Battery Pogue. They can actually push back to Battery Brockenbrough. I forget if it's like, I forget if they time out on this fence. I don't know. I thought that was the case, at least in Hagerstown, if they push too far back here. But the Union can push very deep on both sides, right? Because the point of contention is way back here. So you've really enveloped it. You got a big U you can do. And what you'll see the Union sometimes do from here is use the defilades that are there on Hagerstown. There's a big rock outcropping here. And you can see that there is this kind of nuanced defilade here with the hills on each side. That's looking back to Brockenbrough, to Pogue, to the Miller Cornfield and the point of contention. But there's this set of rocks here, which the Union can use to get healthy. And then you are not that far from, that's the clump of rocks that's used usually to control the point. And if the CSA is holding those, you can use this to get into the backside. The Union can also push way back here, even through these clump of trees. They can wrap all the way around the point and good and deep behind the point, and then push the point from its backside. If Battery Jordan has rolled up too far, they can wipe them there. So the Union can push very deep on Hooker's push, and I think that makes it interesting. Why the Union right side push, I think, is usually imperiled. Good CSA arty, in my view. If you're in Pogue, that's okay. Roll it back. Roll it back almost to Brockenbrough. I like to come out of Brockenbrough and move right to this rise right here and go a little bit forward on that rise. And you can see in the corn, if you can see it way out, you can see pretty far down the corn line. Now you can't see and get, I think, direct fire on the stuff that's on the other side of that hill, right? That rise that's near point, that's what obscures a lot of the direct artillery fire onto the Union, which is why the Union frequently likes to push left. But if the CSA already knows what to do, they can get 9 guns up here. And the Union have about, I don't know, what is that, 250 yards? Well, including the cornfield, probably talking closer to 300 yards of open field they have to run through. 9 guns. We're close to CSA spawn. The CSA can stack infantry back here, and the CSA can just run away, right? You're on artillery. It's not a close range affair is not what you want. You don't have to worry about dying on your guns. You go run and take them back later. But I think this is something as a CSA I think they could use more to bait the Union into these deep pushes that are entirely fruitless. They're going to cost the Union tickets. They're going to cost the Union time, and if the CSA knows when to run, they're going to be able to get out of there. And if the Union probes too deeply and trying to clear these guns off, it's going to be rough. But having a good sized and proficient battery makes, if we go back to point here, this is from the CSA's perspective, it makes this part of the battlefield a killing zone for the CSA and a death trap for the Union. That's why you more frequently see the push on this side. Because of the undulation in the terrain, it's very hard for those 9 guns from the CSA to do much. Maybe the 2 from Jordan can do something, but 2 is better than getting shot by 9. The center push as the kind of last thing to talk about here for the Union, because this is a big map, because the CSA can use depth, open ground, and the defilades further back to not take a lot of ticket losses in an extended skirmish. A lot of times the Union have to think about cap recap before running out of time. So these rocks here are frequently garrisoned by the CSA at the beginning of the map. I usually, if I'm on CSA for this map, I'm going to want to do arty. But if I do infantry, I don't want to be at these. I don't want to be at something that is easy to flank, right? The Union come out of the corn, they can shoot you on the left, they can shoot you on the right coming out of the corn that way, and they can just melee you, right? Send 3 companies straight up the gut to maybe your 1. I understand why the CSA does it sometimes when they're thinking. It's because you have a much larger group back here, and the idea is to bait out a smaller group to take a bad ticket exchange on the way in, and then to countercharge and wipe their flags here. Wiping the flags here, if you get them down as the CSA, try to keep at least a skirmishing group nearby to kill the Union Rambos, who are gonna try to come out of the corn, probably use some concealment and try to get those flags up, because oh my goodness, nobody wants to run from spawn on this map on either side. But since time works against the attackers, I think it's worth it as the CSA to invest some tickets in making sure that they don't get those flags back easily, and certainly don't get them back for free. So the CSA can use depth and the open ground, right? This is the high ground that kind of overlooks the, right, this is probably where the Union's going to push. You can do a lot of shooting, but again, as the Union, you're going to get into those rocks, and because it's long distance shooting, it's not going to be as accurate. And then the CSA is kind of forced to skirmish. Sometimes you'll see the CSA and the Union line up and do some skirmish formation stuff, which I think is just like the worst of War of Rights. But that's my own personal view. That's not why we're here. But that can waste a bunch of time for not all that many tickets. The CSA, if they play KG, they control cap rocks here. I think if they control the defilade rocks here, they can try to control the rocks over here. Because this is so important to the Union, I think it might be worth investing. But I think whatever they do, they got to coordinate, and they got to figure out either they're going to defend those right side rocks with a lot, or they're not, or they're pretty much just going to write them off. Because what you don't want to be doing as the CSA, and I see them doing too many times in pubs, is they think they need to melee the Union every time the Union come out of spawn. It might be news to some, but those pointy sticks you're carrying, they shoot bullets. And as a CSA, you have a lot of space the Union has to run to come and get you, and so it's best to shoot them as they're running, and then if it gets too bad, you can always fall back. But I think one of the traps on here is that it's easy for the Union to concentrate in the corn, and if the CSA is dispersed in a way that the units cannot mutually support one another, that includes infantry helping infantry, but also infantry and artillery coordinating, and infantry bailing out artillery possibly, particularly on the left, because a lot of times the Union can use those Sharps rifles. They can take them up, I think, near the Hagerstown Hill, or use the fixed caissons of Pogue, and they can pretty much take those entire 9 guns offline, unless the CSA is willing to concentrate against them and push them out. So I like the map. As I said, I think it's a map that appears maybe very easy. I think it actually requires a lot of thinking. If the CSA get a bad tickets trade, they got to play cap recap on this. It feels bad because, right, to come anywhere on this map, you have to give up a lot of tickets to come through that open ground. But it's the nature of the thing, and as the defenders, you have a better chance of winning playing with the attackers' tickets if the attackers have more tickets and cap recap than you do playing from behind. So that is Hooker's Bush. An interesting map, a large map, I think hated by many, and I understand why, but I'm on the other side of that one.